The Itsy Betsy pet is a riff on the common rhyme Itsy Bitsy Spider. If you're from an English-speaking country, you've probably heard of it. When Striking Moment was introduced in 1.3.4, it incorrectly said that it increases damage by 300%, when it actually does by 400% or 5 times. In 1.3.4.1, it was changed to say it increased 500% damage, which was still wrong. It took until 1.4.2.1 to actually fix it to say 400%, which is correct. The bell is a component that can play music, but unlike other musical components, its upgraded form cannot play music. The dragon egg and Betsy's egg seem to be resprites of each other, just with different colors. In 1.4.0.1, the pink thread sprite turned from this rather pastel color to a more saturated variety. It was on August 1st, 2022, when I learned that the maid set exists in Terraria. Following the item ID order of pylons, it goes from forest to jungle, then hollow, then cavern, then ocean, then desert, then snow, then mushroom, and finally universal. Skeletron is referred to as a demon in the old man's lore. Lantern nights occur after a boss or invasion has been defeated. This means someone or something is releasing lanterns to congratulate your victory, as referenced in the guide's quotes. I'd presume it's the NPCs. Skeletron is part of Cthulhu's skeleton in the lore, but he himself resembles a human skeleton versus the unholy, squid-faced abomination that you would expect. I guess that's what guarding a dungeon does to you. The guide Voodoo Doll's white in his eyes was reversed when the sprite was changed in 1.3.1. The unimplemented red envelopes from the Chinese New Year event would contain 50 to 500 copper coins within them. In real life, putting 50 to 500 pennies in a red envelope would be extremely tedious and rather weird due to the low value. But if they were Terraria copper coins, well then, congrats, you're a millionaire. Terraria seems to support the Japanese IME, but all kana and kanji don't seem to render properly in Terraria. It can't even render the kanji which are CGK unified with Chinese characters, which are supported. I don't blame them though, as Japanese isn't officially supported in Terraria. The Crystal Serpent has 2 different impact sounds that sound like this. They sound very similar to the crackle of real-life fireworks. Looking at the proportions of Retinazer, he must have his laser retracted into his body when he has his lens cover on. The purple color you see in chat when an invasion starts is #AF4BFF, which is this color. 8 of the princesses' names are of definitive Japanese origin, with 3 from popular culture and 5 from the words ai, meaning love, Hikari, meaning light, Momo, meaning peach, Hime, meaning princess, and Yuki, meaning courage. The mechanical cart provides a small defense boost based on the speed you are currently riding at. Rainbow bricks had their rarity upgraded from white to blue in 1.4. Voodoo demons are said to be of higher rank, explaining why they are more powerful than regular demons. Senex is the only dev to have 2 different vanity sets, a battle set and a dress set. Both of these sets share the same tiara though. In version 1.4.3.3, pixie wings became 1 pixie dust cheaper to make it, so you only needed 1 stack, not 1 stack and 1. Previous to 1.4.1, the Dungeon Guardian could be dealt 5 damage a debuff tick from the Life Drains debuff. This was changed when they made the Dungeon Guardian immune to all debuffs. There are 2 vanity trees in Terraria, the pink sakura and yellow willow trees. You can see the latter in the thumbnail. Lane 4's wings are called prehensile. The word itself means to be able to grasp or hold, as in a prehensile tail. That makes sense because you can't expect a plain old cloak to be able to fly or move on its own. The bestiary entry for the Raven mob in Terraria is just Nevermore repeated 7 times. This is a reference to the Raven poem by Poe, as is the Nevermore painting. The quad-barreled shotgun is the slowest gun in the entire game, taking the Terrarian a whole 0.916 seconds for the Terrarian to reload. Hypixel Skyblock took its reforged system from Terraria, some name for name. Of course, the balancing is different on many. A surprisingly small amount of enemies are immune to Dryad's Bane, which are the Lunatic Cultist Decoys, Martian Officer Shields, the Dungeon Guardian, Dungeon Spirits, the Flying Dutchman, Martian Saucer, the Mysterious Portal and Tablet, Phantasmal Dragon, Pirate's Cursed, Poltergeist, Destroyer Probe, Reaper, Solar Pillar, Destroyer itself, and the Wraith. The Tainted Ghoul seems to be dropping Ichor out of its mouth, with the Vile Ghoul dropping Cursed Flames appropriately. Don't know what the Dreamer Ghoul is dripping though. The Tragic Umbrella has a curve at the end of its shaft, unlike a normal umbrella. The achievement, Back for Second, from Old Gen console refers to the mechanical bosses as Prime Bosses. The Drax used to have a hammer ability and was called the Hamdrax, until hammers could hammer blocks. This conflicted with mining, so the ability was removed. Today, the only mining tool that can also hammer blocks is the Drill Containment Unit. The amount of damage inflicted by the Tiny Eaters from the Scourge of the Corruptor varies by version. It's 75% in 1.4, 70% in 1.3 in Old Gen console, and 55% on 3DS. The Lost Girl purposely has 250 health to look like an NPC in need of saving. This illusion breaks down on higher difficulties, but it shouldn't work on people who play in higher difficulties anyway. Strange plants are more valuable than chlorophyte ore to the metal detector. The Sharanga Bow was the only way to inflict Cursed Inferno before hard mode, but has since been removed, sadly. Both the princess and angler use a ghastly death noise, since as children they can't technically die. Broken armor and withered armor are two different effects that do exactly the same thing. The SDMG got major buffs stat-wise as well as sprite-wise in 1.4. The volatile gelatins periodically is defined as exactly 0.833 seconds or 50 ticks in Terraria speak. The Aqua Scepter used to be much stubbier than it is now, missing the central crystal. Prior to 1.2.4, the flasks of gold would actually apply ichor instead of Midas' touch due to a mistake. Unlike a normal wrench, the combat wrench seems to not feature adjustability. I guess it's not supposed to be used as a wrench anyway. And finally, the Martian Bed looks more like one of those reclining chairs at a dentist than a regular bed. Judging by thinness, even an airline seat would be more comfortable. Good job in making it to the end. I recommend you subscribe, and there are 7 parts other than this video that are already released, and I recommend you click the playlist if you want to watch the rest of those. Thank you, and good luck with whatever you do.